Welcome to the Mexpreneurs Podcast, the podcast about the stories of Mexican tech startup founders who are building world-class, fast-growing companies and having a positive impact at a large scale. My name is Sergio Chavez. I'm a Mexican based in Germany, a tech startup founder, executive, and mentor, and your host. Today we have Mayra Hurtado with us. Mayra is co-founder and CEO of Prelude Health, a Femtech startup based in Singapore. Hormony is the flagship product of Prelude Health. Hormony enables women to measure, monitor, and manage their hormone health and wellness throughout perimenopause. Hormony's key innovation is the world's first and only rapid saliva test that women can use in the privacy of their homes to measure their hormone levels with the support of a mobile app. Prelude Health has established global R&D and commercial partnerships, has received industry awards in Singapore, London, and the US, and was recognized with a Golden Cheetah Award at the Femtech Lab accelerator in London. Mayra is originally from Chihuahua, Mexico. After completing her bachelor in international business in Mexico and her first professional experiences, she moved to Singapore to study an MBA at the Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, one of the top technology universities in Asia. After her graduation, she worked at startups as well as at corporates such as Adidas, where she had a 10-year tenure. Her experience in marketing and e-commerce led her to start Commerce Blue, a digital marketing agency, before starting Prelude Health. I hope you enjoy. Support for this episode comes from Partnership Leaders, the leading community of partnership professionals and executives in SaaS and tech with over 1,500 members globally. We're living in the decade of the ecosystem, and every CEO needs to become a partnership leader. Just take a look at the top companies in the world today like Microsoft, Google, and Apple. They have all become platform companies, and partnership executives in IT have been the ones leading these transformations. Partnership Leaders brings these executives together and is building a playbook to enable CEOs and business leaders across industries to transform their organizations into platform companies. If you're a tech startup founder, Partnership Leaders is the place for you to learn how to leverage partnerships to take your business to the next level. I'm a member of PL and co-host of the Germany chapter and have seen firsthand the richness and value of this incredible community. Visit partnershipleaders.com to learn more and to apply to become a member. Make sure to mention in your application that Mexpreneurs referred you so you can receive a special price if your application is accepted. Hello, Mayra. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
And happy to have you as our guest today. So Mayra, please tell us, who is Mayra Hurtado?
I would say I am a combination of many things. I guess I am a person that I'm very interested in making sure that I leave something for someone to build on and just keep adding on to this world. I am somebody very curious. I am somebody very excited to meet people and talk to people, but at the same time, I'm an introvert. So I enjoy a lot spending time by myself and learning. I am a Mexican, but I'm also slightly Asian by now, I guess, in some ways. And I am very excited to see what's the world bringing in the next few years for tech and health.
That's a great description. But when you say about leaving something to someone, so could you deep dive a little bit deeper into what exactly you mean by that?
I think that a lot of the people that are in an impact venture, or maybe I think it's something that all humans have, where we want to make sure that whatever we're doing in life is leaving an impact, either through our family, our kids, maybe teachers through their students, or maybe companies through their ventures. In my case specifically, I feel that life has given me certain opportunities and helped me build certain toolkits, and that we and I specifically have kind of a duty to do something with them. In my case, I was put in the position where I had the opportunity to build this venture in women's health. And my hope is that we leave something for women to live better lives, but also maybe in the long term, whatever technology we develop it's the stepping stone for someone else, which is the same thing if we look backwards. Whatever we're doing right now is built on the stepping stone of other people. I guess if you sum it up, it's kind of like take it and pass it on.
That's a fantastic summary. And actually, it's great that what you just mentioned, that indeed, and even you see in these big revolutions that we're now experiencing, like AI and so forth, it really has been a combination of multiple things that have happened in many years before. No? And now it's sort of like the combination of all these different things and breakthroughs that happened in the past. No?
And many people that had to be involved for it to get to this point, right? It's really, really a world effort.
Yes. 100%, 100%. That's fascinating. So, and then you mentioned that you've had the chance to have access to these different opportunities. What are these opportunities? So, could you please walk us briefly through what's been your journey so far? And also, what I was also fascinated, you mentioned that you're now like half Mexican, half Asian. So, what exactly has been that journey from being a Mexican to becoming half Asian for you?
I don't know if it's a very proper term to say it, but I spent the last almost half of my life in Southeast Asia, and it has been a fascinating experience. So just to go back a few steps or a few years, I'm originally from Chihuahua. I grew up here. I am right now in Chihuahua, and I study in Tec de Monterrey. I had a lot of fantastic opportunities to study abroad while I was there, meet people, and just have the teachers that made me passionate about cultures and travel and business, international business specifically. My family has always been in the manufacturing industry, so bringing investment to Mexico in some form or another. So this kind of sparkled my curiosity, and after working a few years in the manufacturing industry, specifically in finance and logistics, I had the opportunity to move and do an MBA in Singapore in the local university, after which I worked in a startup in biotech, and then I worked for 10 years in Adidas. In Adidas, I had a fantastic experience because I did move from finance and operations to marketing. But I think the reason why they chose me out of many candidates that applied was the fact that I had a very complementary background. And I had to say, when I originally got into finance and operations, when I started my career, it was a very tough period in the economics in Mexico. It was very tough to find a job, especially a job in a smaller city like Chihuahua. So whatever I could get was good. And finance was not my top choice. My mom is an accountant, so I always said, never ever, life is what life is. I had fantastic teachers. I had a fantastic run when I was in that role in finance. And that was the stepping stone to be able to get a job in Adidas later on, because they were looking for someone that could help them with their financial planning and analysis in the marketing team, which is not a very usual skill for marketing. And at the same time, I was getting an opportunity because I had in my MBA study marketing. So for someone with no marketing background, getting a chance to go into a marketing team, it was a huge thing. That was like an exciting opportunity, and an opportunity where literally I started stacking boxes, because I started as an intern, putting boxes in the storage, organizing samples, doing a basic analysis. And then eventually throughout the 10 years, I rapidly got the support from my boss, my team, and moved up to have roles of more responsibility, have a team, where eventually I had a team of almost 20 people across Southeast Asia and Pacific. At the end, I was managing the product team for the region, and I was very involved with processes through China, Japan, Korea. So it was a fantastic run, but the reality is that it takes a lot of work, and it's just a combination of experiences that got me there. Eventually I left because I wanted to do something different, and I bumped into the idea that we're working into now. And again, when I look backwards through my career, what I realized is that a lot of the things that and the opportunities that I was presented, they were all kind of like pieces of a puzzle that are right now the tools that I am using to build a business, from finance, operation, manufacturing, even a little bit of biotech, regulatory. I had to learn a bit of regulatory as well in the previous startup I worked at. And all these pieces put together a bigger picture that hopefully they will be useful to build something that might be useful for someone else. So that was a long-winded explanation, but I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. But please, what I didn't really understand is like how you ended up from Mexico to Singapore. What was exactly the thing that moved you? So you're where you were studying had a some type of academic program or cooperation with Singapore, or you looked for Singapore somehow and decided to go there. How did that happen?
Well, that's another serendipity story altogether. When I was maybe 16 or 17, so this is like really over 20 years ago, this was the early times, I think, in Singapore. Singapore is a country that is over 50 years old only, but they very quickly developed, right? Over 20 years ago, an aunt of mine went to Singapore, and when she came back, she said, that place is for you. You have to go there. Fast forward 10 years, never really thought about it again. But I had a mentor here in Chihuahua who is a very recognized entrepreneur. And for the longest time, he kept telling me, you need to go to Asia, you need to go to Asia. Asia is the biggest next thing. He planted that seed. And when the time came, I wanted to make a move to Asia. That was very clear. I've studied in Europe before and with the exchange programs through the university and also high school in the US. So Asia to me was like, okay, what's the next frontier? Let's go there. I want to see something different. So when the time came, I applied to a few universities, and this one was in the top 4 in Asia. And it was the country that spoke English as a first language. So that was a lot easier to adjust in my mind. So anyway, I got accepted to a couple of the universities, but to me, it was just this thing where Singapore was calling apparently for over 20 years, and here we are.
And you ultimately stay there. So you didn't just go study, but you actually settled in Singapore. But so why exactly did you ended up settling in Singapore?
It was not planned. My plan was to go study, come back. I didn't even know what was after that, but opportunities just came knocking. The last semester I did an internship in Adidas. I was working full time, but I was also studying, and it was a fantastic experience. After that, I got a job offer to go to the biotech pharma startup, and a year into it, Adidas called me back, and time just flew. All of a sudden, I was there for 10 years. It was a fantastic run, a fantastic experience. I had a fantastic team. Obviously, there's always ups and downs, but I think that's part of the learning curve that has to be in any human's life or any professional life. And all of a sudden, you look back and it's 16 years. So I don't know if it was exactly planned, but I'm pretty sure it's how it was meant to be.
So 16 years already in Singapore and counting.
And counting.
So you mentioned that you finished your studies, went to work for these biotech startup. Adidas called you back. You raised through the ranks through Adidas. In my understanding, is also with Adidas, you actually had the chance to be also all around the world, including Germany in the headquarters. It seems that you had a very nice career track ahead of you with Adidas. So, but why didn't you stay on with Adidas? What was the trigger for you to do something else?
I think there's a few reasons. We were getting to a point where you realize that it's kind of like you go through a school. Like that was a fantastic school. And then we got to a point where there's this need to learn new things. And it's not for everyone, that feeling. It is, for me specifically, I felt like I wanted to know more, learn more, see other things. COVID happened. And I think for many, COVID was kind of like a partition into what life is now or what should be next. Or it just we started questioning things. We started seeing life in a different light, appreciating life in general. You know, life, I'm sure you can relate, is you start realizing that life is short. People are not here forever. In Singapore, I did a fantastic job, by the way, with managing. It's really, really a case study for best practices in communication. I'm deviating a little bit, but it's a part of the reason why. Communication, community work, just how a community can pull together and pull through. However, having said that, that meant that I was in the country for 2 years. We couldn't leave. So we were very safe, but we also could not leave. And my family was back home. My parents were safe, luckily as well, but my dad was already not in great health. We were not expecting anything, but I just felt it was time to come back and be with them. And I wanted to take time off as well. after so many years. But at the same time, I got an offer to go to another company. It was something very, very different. I decided to also maybe try something else with a partner where we started a consulting business. So kind of a lot of pieces started moving, and they just, because I had that itch of let's do something. But then with all of this, I started having health issues as well, not related to the pandemic, but the stress around all of this. Nobody could really pinpoint what was happening. I saw many doctors. I spent a lot of money, and I feel I'm very lucky to be in a position where I could spend that to figure out things that seem so inconspicuous, so very, insignificant, like headaches and, even gain weight and things like that. And finally, I couldn't figure out. I even went to chiropractors. Finally, I got to this specialist where asked me to send some lab tests. Again, I spent so much money, and at the end, I just got a piece of paper with a bunch of numbers and words I could not tell, which I thought I was at the end of the line. When I researched more about it, I realized that this was something that women are not aware, which is the transition period to menopause. And really starts so early, can start as early as 35. And at that point, it's just such a prime state of a woman's life, but really nobody focus on it. After women have babies, all the care goes into the family, the job, etc. So anyway, we realized there was a huge gap. And at that point, I met by serendipity again, I met my co-founder, who has experience, who had a company before. The company is still running, but now they stepped back from the role. She and her husband, which we can talk in another time, set up this company focused on women's health. And we realized that, there was this huge opportunity. And then we said, okay, well, let's explore what we can do about it. And we just started falling in love with this whole process, with the Femtech community, with developing a solution. It hasn't been always a smooth run, to be very honest, but it's just a run that project we're very passionate about.
Yes, but it was like a sequence of events that took you into, okay, have a great corporate career here, but still COVID happened, these health issues happened, these realizations happened, which led you into then taking that. So that means that you went from Adidas to then start your startup, or it was the consultancy that you first had, or you had it in parallel to Adidas. What exactly was the sequence there?
So at the very end of Adidas, we started this consultancy, but at the same time, I got another role in another company, a global role in sales and marketing, also women's health. And that's when, things started to click again. Pieces of the puzzle started coming together. And I think it's about just being aware of the signs when they're coming together, and how do you turn circumstances into opportunities in a way, and how brave you are to take them, because it's not an easy choice. You were talking about this earlier, is how do you leave the comfort of a job? I still cannot answer that. I think it's not for everyone. I sometimes miss that comfort of getting your check every month or every week. But when you're really passionate and you see the end goal, exactly what you were saying earlier, is it takes another view, or it takes another perspective, and you get energy to pull through.
Definitely. And then, so what exactly is your consultancy? Could you please expand a little bit? And why did you start your consultancy in the first place as well?
I think it started more of as an experiment. We wanted to figure out, it was a time where, there was a big boom during COVID for e-commerce, digital marketing, and all those were skills, expertise that we were doing in Adidas very well. So I was very familiar how that could be put into practice. And I just thought it was kind of like, let's give it a try. Can we do this for other companies? Can we do it for us first? We realized that since people were not going to be able to travel for holidays, there was an opportunity this is like a really random story, but we realized that people wanted to send gifts. And, there was this whole thing where Amazon orders were late, supply chains were completely overrun by the amount of things that needed to be sent when everything was disrupted. So we found a niche where we started offering, through drop shipping, really, pajamas, where you could order family Christmas pajamas. Through the weeks leading to Christmas, we've started selling drop shipping Christmas family pajamas, and basically that's how it kind of took off. And we said, okay, there's a model here. Obviously, it doesn't work the same way because it was such a specific time or moment in time where a lot of things had to come together for that to kind of blow up. But then we realized there is an opportunity for more companies to be able to offer their products in other markets. My dream was really to create a standard pipeline where companies doing arts and crafts, traditional arts and crafts, for example, from Mexico or from where I'm from, Chihuahua, where people could find other sources of income by selling their arts and crafts in other parts of the world where they're more appreciated that they are in their own cities, right? Because for us, it's something you see every day. So you might not be so excited about those arts and crafts, but those products are very appreciated in other parts of the world. So my original idea is how can we create those pipelines or those processes for companies to jump in and do that, generate additional income where their consumers might be. So that's kind of how we started. We haven't done much of that. We're going to start a project right now with our company, but because then this other thing took over. But it did help us to create kind of like a model to commercialize online products.
And also something that you mentioned, so you had your consultancy, then all these different changes happened. You met your co-founder of your startup by serendipity, which then led you to create your own tech startup. But serendipity, it always finds you. It's typically not just a random thing, but it happens because you've been probably working in different spaces. So, but we'll get the chance to talk with your co-founder in the next conversation. But just walk us briefly through how exactly did you meet your co-founder? What was that connection that led you into then?
We had a mutual acquaintance that knew we had this curiosity to do something in women's health and knew that we were kind of approaching something similar but with different skill set. This person had previously worked with her in her previous venture, and this person I met through someone else. My background and expertise is in operations, branding, business really, and her background is in science. So she literally built an ELISA testing kit, which is a machine to test blood inexpensively and very fast, basically, in her garage many years ago. She has all the science part, and I had the business part. And this lady who has a lot of experience in venture building thought it was a good match, got us together. And I remember the first time we met, I flew to LA and we met at a Mexican restaurant in Hollywood, actually. And I remember I walked in, and the first time I met her, I was just so starstruck because, for somebody coming from business, just having the opportunity to meet someone in science with that background, it was just like, I cannot believe I'm sitting here right now and asking all these questions. Her husband also is a scientist. Both have a PhD from Stanford, and they're originally from India. So it was just the opportunity came knocking, and like you said, or actually this morning I read something similar to what you said, which is something along the lines that luck happens when there's preparation and work done. So you're ready to take that chance or that opportunity.
And that led then to a wonderful partnership then transformed into your current business. And well, of course, we'll dive deeper into that in our next conversation. But it's fantastic, like how things happen one after the other. And it's great. I'm very much looking forward to learn more about your startup moving forward. But I'm just conscious of time. So what I would love to probably just ask you is also, okay, you've been now 16 years living in Singapore. You're currently in Chihuahua, but what's still your connection to Mexico? So despite the fact of being abroad, what is that connection to Mexico? How are you also working with Mexico in your current setting, in your current startup and businesses?
I think it goes a lot tied to the pass it on element we discussed earlier. I had a lot of people that helped me a lot through my career and when I was a student. And for me, it is very important that we pass it on. I think one of the issues that we have is a lot of the opportunities are concentrated in certain geographies. It's very hard if you're not coming from like Silicon Valley or from those circles, to be in a tech startup. That's the reality. I feel I've been super lucky because I've been pushed and worked to be in certain geographies. So my dream was to be able to bring something back here. Right now, I'm super excited because we are working on a collaboration with Tec de Monterrey Campus Chihuahua. We just had a group of 5 ladies who are in their second semester and did a focus group for us. and then did a research project with recommendations. They just presented it last week. And honestly, we were all blown away with the work they did. And to me, that just speaks so much about the quality of work and the quality of people that we have in Mexico, and specifically in cities that are outside of the main capital or the largest cities, that normally we say, okay, those cities are mainly manufacturer, or they mainly this, or mainly small business. But the reality is that there's such a high quality of people here, and if only there are opportunities for them created, we could see a lot more coming out of it. So we just finished that. We're about to start a small pilot with also Tec de Monterrey, but with the bioengineering school, where they're going to help us trial our app and the test that we're building with our app. And we're hoping that this pilot will set the framework for a larger study that we will do in 5 countries, and hopefully in collaboration with 5 other universities. So ideally, this will not only help us as a company, obviously, but also shine a light on the capabilities of Mexico or Chihuahua specifically, and also maybe build bridges. So one of the things that has been in my head, and maybe I put it in the back burner for a few years, but in my head, in being in Singapore, is that there's so many opportunities between Mexico and Singapore, but it's just, we see it so far and we don't think about it as often. We think about, the nearest neighbor up north or sometimes south, or even Europe in some cases. But the reality is there's a lot of opportunities, and it's not just in selling products or buying products. It's also the intellectual opportunities or the service opportunities. My hope is that with this project, we can build bridges. And it could be as simple as a student here met a student there and went and visited them at some point, and maybe even went to their weddings. But it could be as big as they realize that this could be a bigger pilot study between universities because they have complementary skill sets. You never know. I think we just have to work in building the seeding seeds or planting seeds, and then see if they can grow on their own.
No, but it's incredible how you're building bridges. And as you mentioned, Singapore is probably not the top of mind when we as Mexicans think about collaborations abroad, but you're now opening those opportunities.
We hope so. We're trying.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Last but not least, I would love to ask you, of course, you have, I think, a fantastic trajectory from going to Mexico to Singapore, having a fantastic corporate career, now moving into entrepreneurship in different ways, building these bridges. But what will be your advice for aspiring founders? So think about Mayra a few years back, probably started to think about doing something. What will be your best advice for those that would like to follow a similar trajectory to yours?
I think it's interesting because when I started, first of all, I didn't think I could. It was just not something I had in my plans. It kind of just happened. So first of all, I didn't think I could. But then because I didn't think I could, I also didn't think I couldn't. Although I did have a lot of doubts, and I still have a lot of doubts. I think it's part of the journey. What I would say is just make sure that you're really passionate about what you do, because really this is for the lack of a better word, is a game of passion and resilience. You make it if you're able to take the punches, because there's a lot of punches and a lot of no's, and you need to be able to turn those no's and punches into opportunities. It will take a lot to build, so just have to be aware that it's a resilience game. I would say it's worth it if you really, really enjoy it. Make sure that you're really open to learning, being wrong, because you'll be wrong many times. Be open to meeting people, learning people, asking for help, build connections, because at the end of the day, everything we do in life, not just in business, is about building networks, collaborating with people, leaving the ego aside a bit as well. So know that you're doing it for a bigger purpose and not so much for yourself.
Great. So resilience, bigger purpose, connections, already some fantastic key takeaways for those listening to us.
I do know it sounds like I'm romanticizing it. It sounds much nicer than what it is, and probably it sounds also like a bit corny, but it's so true. And I'm sure you would agree in your experience.
100%. Definitely. I can totally relate to that.
And I'm sure that's your work in Mexpreneurs as well. So
Indeed, definitely. But I can totally relate to that. So, Mayra, look, thank you very much for this fantastic conversation. I'm looking forward to our next episode and to learn more about Hormony and your startup more in depth. But thank you for being here today, and see you soon.
Thank you. And I think the last thing I would say is just thank you so much for creating this space and creating the support, for letting us just share our experience. I think it means a lot for startups like us. So thank you for the space.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you. Highly appreciate it.
See you soon.
See you soon. Thank you. And thanks to you for joining us today. Please remember to subscribe via your favorite podcast app to be notified about new episodes and share with us your feedback. We would love to hear from you. Thank you also to the Maxpreneurs team, Valeria Morel, Hector Barragan from Hyper Voltage, Francisco Jaimes, Pamela Elizalde, Katia Cruz, Rocío Marroquín. I am Sergio Chavez. See you next time.